Don't let one bad leg haunt your parlay. Parlays turn into payouts, and now even near misses won't haunt your bet. The NFL season is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is rewriting the rules with Ghost Leg, a new game-changing promotion that turns close calls into cold, hard cash. Best of all, it's available to all DraftKings customers. Here's how it works. Build any 3+ leg pregame NFL parlay on Sunday, apply your Ghost Leg token, and if one leg loses, DraftKings makes it vanish like it never existed and pays you out in cash for the rest. Last season, over 30 million parlays were lost by a single leg. This year, Ghost Leg gives those busted bets a second life. No more busted parlays that haunt you all season. With Ghost Leg, the bad leg vanishes. The payout doesn't. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code PFF. That's code PFF to unlock Ghost Leg, the promotion that makes one bad leg disappear and pays you out in real cash. Ghost your losses, get your payout in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
But we start, as we always do, with Thursday Night Football. Commanders-Packers. Hell of a Thursday night game. It wasn't that long ago that Thursday Night Football games were reserved for, like, the dog matchup of the week. Like, it was whatever game that nobody was really looking forward to. It felt like they always stuck those on Thursday Night Football. Now it's primetime games, man. I mean, Packers-Commanders? That could be a preview of the NFC Championship game. I'm not saying it's the most likely. Eagles fans, calm down. I'm not saying that. But it could be with how these teams are playing, with how they played last year. So let's preview this game just by having a overarching conversation on these two teams, what side of the ball you're really looking forward to seeing. So I'll let you kick things off here. Packers-Commanders. What draws your eye first?
Yeah, I know Micah Parsons was in the spotlight for the Packers, obviously, in his first game last week, but let's take a look at the way Jordan Love played last week. And obviously, there were two turnover-worthy plays pretty close to the line of scrimmage that weren't great, but he got away with it with the end result of it. The interception from Brian Branch was called back due to a penalty. Alex Anzalone had a shot at an interception, but other than those two throws, Jordan Love was spectacular, and I thought he was really good downfield. The one thing I've been looking for with Matthew Golden being added to this offense and Jordan Love kind of needing a little bit of a bounce back from last year is, can he get back to throwing in the intermediate parts of the field in front of safeties, right? That 10 to 19 yard range. Because look, he's got the arm and he's got the gunslinger mentality to throw it deep down the field. And this week he had the 5th best deep passing grade in the NFL. But I want to look at what he did underneath to set that up, because I think the way the Packers need to treat opposing defenses and the safeties especially, kind of like a pendulum, right? You don't need to force it. Just let them come back and forth and up near the line of scrimmage and then throw it over their heads. Or if they sit back, then throw it in front of them. I thought they did a great job of it. Jordan Love this past week, 84.7 intermediate passing grade, also 5th best in the NFL, 6 of 9, 93 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 big-time throws, and whether it was one high, 2 high, he's really just reading the depth of the safeties in this offense with deep out routes, with deep crossing routes, and then underneath, when you talk about finding ways to just exploit those holes between the linebackers and the safeties when they go too high. I love the seam that he threw for the touchdown to Tucker Kraft early in the game as well. I just think the way that Jordan Love attacked against the Detroit Lions last week, and that's a great pair of safeties, and you got another pair of safeties that are really good here that played well last week with Will Harris and Quan Martin. I think controlling those two guys is going to be the key to Jordan Love's success this week and every week. How does he respond to safeties? How does he just read out the Packers' concepts the way they should be read out? Last year, it was a struggle for him in the intermediate range. Last week, he was really darn good there against Detroit, and it set up the rest of their passing game for success.
It feels like that's sort of been the Jordan Love conversation, right? I mean, like he's got all the arm talent in the world, and when it's going well, it's because he's this big game hunter type of a quarterback, and he's keeping those turnover-worthy plays a little bit lower. Obviously, when you get to the middle of the field, that's where more of the defenders are, whether it's the second level or the third level. The Commanders are going to be eyeing this. I have a lot of faith in who Dan Quinn is, not just as a head coach, but as a defensive mind, and sort of what they're going to do on that side of the ball. So they're going to – I think that this Commanders defense is going to be pretty good at baiting Jordan Love into these throws, and it's going to be a matter of, hey, who has the upper hand? Is it Jordan Love's arm strength? Is it his anticipation, or are the safeties playing a little bit of mental chess with him to get him to throw the football that they can go up and get it? So I'm looking forward to seeing how he continues to play against a really good defensive mind in Dan Quinn as the head coach there. On the other side of things for the Commanders, the game against the Giants last week, it just didn't feel like the Giants were putting a lot of stress on the Commanders in a lot of ways. They were very diverse in, who was running the ball for them, who was catching passes out of the backfield. We talked about that in the grade release show on Monday. I feel like the Packers are going to be a much better test when it comes to really putting the pressure on the Commanders all around to sort of play their best game. I look at the interior offensive line specifically, and we're going to talk offensive line a lot here on this show because some looked really great in week one, some we have a lot of worries about. And the Commanders, I'm starting there because if you look on their interior, Brandon Coleman had a 22.9 passing grade last week, and Tyler Biadasz had a 43.8 pass blocking grade. That's one of their guards and one of their centers there. And of course, we all talked about Micah Parsons a ton and the addition that he individually was going to make for the Packers defense. But as a whole, it felt like that whole defensive line was just playing on fire because they had that type of player on their defense. Devontae Wyatt had a great game, above 17% passers win percentage. Lucas Van Ness was playing a lot stronger. He only had about a 10% passers win percentage this past week, but still, he looked like he was playing with his hair on fire. Rashawn Gary was playing well as well. So to me, it is that interior of the Commanders that I am looking at here because they were the biggest liability for this team last week against a really good defensive line with the Giants, and obviously the Giants weren't really a team that could capitalize. I feel as though the Packers certainly are one of those teams that can capitalize if your offensive line isn't playing the way that they need to. So for how well the supporting cast around Micah Parsons played last week, I'd be a little bit worried given how the Commanders played on the interior last week. They've got to have a much better game. And then I'll just throw in this as well. Terry McLaurin, missed a lot of time, a lot of talk with his contract and everything this past summer before the season got underway. Just a 61.2 receiving grade last week, 4 targets, 2 catches, and 27 receiving yards. It goes without saying, even with Deebo Samuel having a great game last week with 77 receiving yards, they have to have a lot more from Terry McLaurin, especially against a team like the Packers on a short week in Green Bay. So that's sort of what I think about the Commander side of things for this one.
2 great points there for their offense and the 2 things I'm looking at. So last week they had those interior guys. They had to block Dexter Lawrence, who's obviously one of the hardest guys to block in the NFL. I'm looking here at pass rush situations just like in Detroit last week. With Detroit last week. We didn't see a whole lot of it, but I think Jeff Hafley's going to get more into it. Micah Parsons lining up on obvious passing downs over those interior guys, standing up, doing all the creative things that you can do with him. I think that's going to be more of a factor in this defense. They're not just going to line up Micah Parsons on Laramie Tunsil and go, okay, hey, win one-on-one, because he can do that. But if you can find a huge advantage on the inside against a second-year guy like Coleman, against a center like Biadasz, then you've got yourself in business. And I think for Terry McLaurin, he's got to be a huge part of this game plan because you and I both think the Packers cornerbacks are the biggest question for this team right now. If the pass rush can get home and they speed up Jaden, then that's one way to solve that. But I think one-on-one, if Jaden gets too much time in the backfield, McLaurin could win that battle in the outside. It could be a lot bigger day for him.
Yeah, one of the bets that we have on the player prop tool, if you guys download the PFF app, is Tucker Kraft getting just over 3 receptions in this game. And that's something that we see as a decently high cover probability there for him. He only had 2 receptions last week, but he got 4 targets. He looked like he was going to be in the mix for this offense. And so you guys can see that and so much more using the player prop tool, using the betting tab, if you guys have the PFF app. So that was just a little example that I wanted to give you guys, but you can see those things for every single game.